Long ball number one here on Friday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Big news this week. The United States men's national team released their summer roster of players. Some new exciting faces, but also some large names on the team sheet omitted from this. Jason, I know we'll get to the Christian Pulisic absence, the explanation for that. Has created quite a bit of conversation, spanning from not a big deal to the worst thing ever. We'll break that down later. But here in long balls, maybe we want to talk about kind of like the position groupings and see who we might want to see take part in this summer's national team activities.
Yeah, we're going to open up the question of Pulisic dodging this tournament later on in the show. But for the moment, what stands out to me is, and there's a highlighted name, it's because he's in the picture. There's Serginho Dest. He returns to the team after his long injury absence. Of course, we all remember what happened in Trinidad with the red card and the bad behavior. So let's hope we get good Serginho Dest in this tournament. He's one of the few sort of like very prominent U.S. men's national team players that's in this group. So I think there's some pressure on him to perform, and that goes beyond the Trinidad thing or even coming back from injury. Also in the defender group, Chris Richards, who comes off the FA Cup victory. Oh, Matt Turner, also an FA Cup champion as a backup in the final. And I know that ahead of this camp, Mauricio Pochettino kind of fired a shot across the Matt Turner bow and said, he needs to be playing more if he wants to be the number one goalkeeper in 2026. So it's saying it is an open competition and in intimating that Matt Turner needs more playing time. So that's something to watch for because you got two friendlies and then you got the Gold Cup, Rob. So maybe Patrick Schulte gets an opportunity. Maybe Zach Steffen gets an opportunity. Matt Freese is here. I think he's going to be the player cut when this group goes from 27 to 26, but I'm glad he's getting recognized for what he's doing at NYCFC.
Without going in too hard a detail on it, of those other goalies, who is going to put up the biggest challenge to Turner, do you think, just off the top of your head?
I think that Zach Steffen has been too inconsistent. His career has taken a weird turn. There was a moment when we thought he might elevate into the number one spot, obviously left off the World Cup team. I think at the time, Greg Berhalter's thinking was we don't need a distraction of who the number one is. Matt Turner's the number one. I don't know that I see
That's
Zach
weird logic
Steffen.
still to me, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, I got you. I don't think I see Zach Steffen elevating back into that number one position, although it's of the moment. And what I hope Pochettino is bringing to the table here is this mentality of it doesn't matter what you did last camp. It doesn't matter what you did in the camp before. It doesn't matter what you did last year. What matters is where you are right now. And some of that will be dictated by your club form. Not all of it. It can't all be dictated by club form, but some of it. And I think that, Patrick Schulte's playing week in and week out. Zach Steffen's playing week in and week out, and they may have a leg up on Matt Turner. I would put Schulte slightly ahead of Steffen to answer your question.
Defenders here, obviously we talked about Serginho Dest. I think that almost in my head balances out the disappointment that some of the prominent players aren't here. I want to see what Dest looks like, because when Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest were on the field at the same time, this team was dynamic in a way that it was not without at least one of the fullback I mentioned. But so hopefully we get to see a good amount of minutes from Dest, but also on the defenders list is Max Arfston from Columbus, Alexander Freeman, who has been getting some buzz. And I know some hardcore nerds were really excited to see the son of the NFL Hall of Famer, All-Star at the very least, Antonio Freeman here. He's playing in Orlando?
Yes.
Freeman. And then Dwan Jones, Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, and Miles Robinson round up that defender group.
Yeah, let me give you my excitement levels. Excited about Max Arfston. I think he's a very good player. I like what he brings going forward. You talked about maybe lacking some of that in previous camps. Max Arfston's going to get up the field if he plays. And I actually think he's probably the guy in line to start at left back because I don't see another one here that is an obvious choice to play in that position with Jedi Robinson absent. And by the way, the explanation on Jedi Robinson is that he does have some issue that he is dealing with, that there is that he needs to be kind of he needs to take care of himself, but he also maybe needs to get something taken care of in the offseason after a long year at Fulham, where he was an excellent performer. So disappointed that he's not here, and it does bring down the whole quality of the roster. In addition to those other names we talked about, but when you don't have Weston McKennie, when you don't have Tim Weah, when you don't have Gio Reyna, when you don't have Christian Pulisic, then it is less striking that Jedi Robinson is not there. Midfielders, I guess we'll move on to that. I was going to say, otherwise, I'm not really. The rest of these names are kind of like, oh, we kind of know them. I think Richards obviously has had a very good year at Crystal Palace, and so I'm okay with him being in there and being a starter. Whether Tim Ream is the other starter, his partner in central defense, is kind of an open question. He's the only left-footed guy in the team that can play that position. Sort of obviously. I don't know if we could see a Chris Richards, Mark McKenzie pairing. Maybe we do. Maybe Chris Richards switches over to the left side. Midfielders, Tyler Adams is there. That's the anchor. Sebastian Berhalter, definitely getting some love because of what he's been doing with Vancouver and helping them to their great start in Major League Soccer this season. We got Johnny Cardoso, could be on the move. Atleti apparently is eyeing Johnny Cardoso, which is interesting. We knew that Tottenham was in the mix for him, so we'll see what happens. Luca de la Torre, Diego Luna, everybody's excited about that in his big balls. Malik Tillman, I skipped Jack McGlynn. That's a Philadelphia guy who gets a look. Or no, he's Jack McGlynn's the guy who moved on to Houston. Excuse me.
Yes,
Malik
sir.
and Sean Zawatsky, another Columbus player. It's a mixed bag in the midfield. Malik Tillman's got a lot to prove. Diego Luna, we know what he can do, but is he good enough at this level? Kind of moving up from the January camp. Luca, I don't know about it anymore. He's okay, he's passable, but he doesn't wow me. Johnny Cardoso always kind of underwhelms me at the international level. I don't know if Berhalter's going to play a lot, so it is kind of a mixed bag in midfield.
Yeah, who you leaning on here other than the obvious pick of Tyler Adams? You don't want to grind him down because I think he put in a lot of minutes in the second half of the season for Bournemouth. So, his availability isn't always guaranteed. So who would be the other midfielders in this group that we'd want to see? I think Diego Luna is obviously high on folks' list. And I think just because of the novelty factor, I know a lot of people probably want to see Sebastian Berhalter, but I would like to see, I know you get frustrated by him because he shows out for club, hasn't really put anything on film in the national team jersey, but I guess I'm hoping to see Johnny Cardoso, perform well. Obviously, I want everyone to perform well, but Johnny Cardoso, if he could step out from the shadows and do his thing that he's obviously performing well at the club level, I'd really like to see that translated to the national team. I think he could be a solid piece there. But so Adams, Berhalter, Luna, Torre, any of those MLS guys?
I mean, yeah, again, Diego Luna is exciting. He has been much more of a goal-scoring player than a facilitator at RSL this season. I think some of that is RSL and their just lack of solid goal-scoring options, but he can create something out of nothing. I don't know if that means he's a starter. It may mean that he is an off-the-bench kind of player. But if you look at this group and you're trying to find the creative ability, Malik Tillman can do it, but does not bring it to the national team on a regular basis. And maybe this is his last chance to prove it. Outside of him, there's not a lot of creativity here. So maybe Diego Luna has to be on the field by default. And I'm going to shout out to Orius Dosh, who says, we're calling Sebastian Berhalter Seabass. Are we calling him Seabass? Is that who we're talking
I
about?
like Seabass is fun.
I don't know.
Seabass.
It's a Seabass. So we're calling him Seabass. Okay. Forwards. Brendan Aronson listed as a forward, which probably means he's playing wide because, again, no Pulisic, no Weah. Patrick Agyemang, center forward. Fowler and Balogun, center forward. Damian Downs, center forward. Quinn Sullivan, another player who's going to play wide more than likely because of those absences. Brian White, center forward. Haji Wright, who can play wide or centrally, probably better centrally, but plays, I think, in a two-striker system there at Coventry City, or did this season. So, again, it's a mixed bag. No Ricardo Pepi, still injured. Josh Sargent left off, and Berhalter, excuse me. Wow, flashbacks. Mauricio Pochettino said that was a football decision. That was a soccer choice that Josh Sargent was left off pretty much because Mauricio Pochettino didn't think he was good enough for this team or the right fit for this team, I think is probably the best way to look at it.
I'll have to look at it closer, but I mean, off the top of your head, I know they finished higher, but Haji Wright and Josh Sargent both scored a good amount of goals in the championship. Obviously, the same level, same league. From the bits of those two American strikers that you saw, was there any between those two, between Haji Wright and Josh Sargent that would say one was obviously better than the other?
I do think it's the versatility that Haji Wright brings. I mean, that Sargent has played wider for Norwich too. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Sargent is sort of a all-around forward who doesn't do anything great. Now, Haji Wright isn't great either, but then there's this point, right? Matthew suggesting that maybe part of this is that Josh Sargent just doesn't show up. He doesn't play well. He did have a goal ruled out, I think, in the Nations League on an offside call that was very, very tight. And we thought maybe he was going to break his long streak of not scoring for the national team, but obviously it was ruled out, and he still hasn't scored since. Since, Robert, when in the last time Josh Sargent scored a goal for the U.S. men's national team?
It was pre-COVID. I think it was 2018 or 19.
2019. 2019 is the last time he scored for the U.S. men's national team. So that could be the explanation right there.